Protests have erupted in Armenia after its prime minister agreed to a peace deal with Azerbaijan. The truce ends the fighting in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh and allows Azerbaijan to keep its territorial gains. Now, at least 1,000 people have been killed since the long-standing conflict erupted again in September. Russia mediated the ceasefire, which Moscow says will enable a permanent end to the bloodshed.
Thousands of Armenians demonstrated outside government headquarters in the capital, Yerevan, to show their displeasure over the country's peace deal with Azerbaijan that also includes Russia as a peacekeeper. Hundreds of the protesters actually made it inside the government building, where they were also able to ransack some of the offices. Just earlier, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan had released a statement on social media saying that he had signed a declaration with the presidents of Russia and Azerbaijan to end the war. He also called the decision incredibly painful, both for him and his people. He said the decision was based on what he called a deep analysis of the combat situation. He called it the best possible ending. Russian President Vladimir Putin also announced the end of hostilities and cited Russia's role in the agreement. The republics of Azerbaijan and Armenia are to stop at the positions they have taken. Peacekeeping forces of Russia are being set up along the line of contact in Nagorno-Karabakh and along the corridor connecting Nagorno-Karabakh with the Republic of Armenia. During 6 weeks of fighting, Azerbaijani forces had been making steady inroads into Nagorno-Karabakh. They claimed that they had taken many settlements, but Armenia disputes that. The region had been in Armenian hands since it won a war with Azerbaijan in 1994. The territory is also mainly inhabited by Armenians. Azerbaijan claims it has always been an integral part of its country. And then on Monday, a Russian military helicopter at a Russian base in Armenia was shot down, killing both occupants. Azerbaijan said it was responsible and that it had made a mistake. Russia has relationships with both countries. However, it's still not clear whether the downing of the helicopter had played a major role in the sudden peace agreement.
And let's get more now. We are joined by DW's Yulia Hahn in Istanbul. Yuri Reshedo has the view from Moscow. And Yulia, I'd like to begin with you because you've been covering the conflict. You were recently in Azerbaijan. How significant is this ceasefire, especially given the territorial gains on the part of Azerbaijan?
When we look at the images coming in right now from Azerbaijan, we see people celebrating on the streets, waving flags, driving around in motorcades. And these people are not celebrating another ceasefire agreement. They are celebrating victory. And this is how it's being sold by the leadership in Baku. The message here is, we won. And this is because under this new deal, Azerbaijan can keep the areas it has right now under its control, so including the areas it has gained over the past weeks. Most importantly, maybe the town of Shusha in Nagorno-Karabakh, called Shushi in Armenian language. It's a very strategic location. And we heard President Aliyev of Azerbaijan talking last night, and he said the Armenian Prime Minister had no other option than to sign this deal. And I quote Mr. Aliyev here, he said it was essentially a capitulation.
Yeah, and we want to get the reaction also from Armenia. I'll ask you about that in just a moment. But first, Yuri, I know you're going to talk about the wider regional view, especially as you're sitting in Moscow right now, because we know that Armenia has a defense deal with Russia. Azerbaijan, meantime, strongly backed by Turkey. Given all of that, what is the view from Moscow today?
Well, Sarah, Russia is considered, as you said, as a protector of Armenia, but in reality, Moscow refused for a long time to do anything specific in this conflict. And this, let's say, reluctant position was obviously undermined, has obviously undermined Russia's prestige in the eyes of potential partners and allies, so that Russia now seems to change it. Yes, there were peace talks in Moscow in the recent weeks that ended with a peace deal, but that deal was broken just hours after the signing and brought no peace peace, as we know. Russia's obvious inaction culminated in a letter that Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan wrote to Vladimir Putin a few weeks ago, asking the Russian president to finally decide what kind of concrete aid Russia is going to offer should the conflict escalate further. Even back then, this was a clear signal that Armenia didn't feel well enough protected by Russia, which Moscow now is likely to change, trying to be a peacekeeper in the region.
Indeed, Armenia has been in a difficult position throughout, especially because now Azerbaijan is saying that Turkey will play a role in the so-called peacekeeping process. Yulia, I'll turn to you now. Will the Armenians really accept that?
Well, right now, Turkey's role in this so-called peacekeeping process is somewhat ambiguous. We don't know what kind of a role we are talking about, but I guess it's safe to assume that any kind of Turkish presence in the area is very, very painful to accept for many Armenians. But Azerbaijan has been pushing for this, for a stronger Turkish involvement when it comes to the future of Nagorno-Karabakh. Turkey is Azerbaijan's most important supporter, especially militarily. They have been providing the Azeri army with weapons and training, and my impression is that this has really edged the leadership in Baku on to continue with their military operation in Nagorno-Karabakh in the past week. So it's hardly surprising Azerbaijan is pushing for Turkey to get involved, and it's hardly surprising to see the reactions here from Turkish high-ranking officials. The foreign minister, for example, today hailed the latest developments as a significant gain. So Turkey, too, is framing this as a success, as a victory for Azerbaijan and Turkey.
Yuri, meantime, a really big part of this deal, and this is something that we have not seen before, this is a big first, Russian peacekeepers will be deployed to this region. Just walk us through how big a deal this is strategically for Moscow.
Well, Farah, it seems so, and Russia indeed is going to send about 2,000 peacekeepers, lots of armored vehicles, lots of special equipment to Nagorno-Karabakh for the next 5 years. That sounds like a really big deal, but don't forget that Russia already has a military pact with Armenia and a military base in the country, and now Russia just finally seems to wake up, so to say, and to do something concrete militarily in this conflict.
Yulia, I'd also like to ask you, because there have already been 3 attempts at a truce here since this conflict escalated in the late summer, early fall. All have failed. What are the prospects, not only that this ceasefire holds, but also that there is a longer-term peace reached between these two sides?
Well, I think this time the circumstances are different, and everything happened really fast since last night. And as we hear, hundreds of Russian troops, so-called peacekeepers, are already being deployed to Nagorno-Karabakh. So new facts are being created on the ground right now. So the last 3 attempts at a ceasefire were actually brokered by the so-called Minsk group, that is part of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. And this Minsk group consists of Russia, but also France and the United States. These 2 players, the 2 Western players, seem to be out of the picture now. So now it's basically Russia and Turkey. It's also going to be interesting to see how the situation in Armenia develops. We see that many people are extremely frustrated with the developments, are angry, are protesting, are demanding Prime Minister Pashinyan to step down. So you have the very different emotions here right now. A victory on the Azerbaijani side, but anger and frustration on the Armenian side.
Yulia Hahn with The View from Istanbul. Yuri Rashedo in Moscow. Thank you so much to both of you.